Episode 101, James Roberts. Here's to the next 100.
Welcome, the Awaken Your Alpha podcast. Live limitless. Tracking down the finest alpha minds on the planet for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Words they live by. For example, put the cookie down. Origins, biggest failures, fears, awakening moments, Yoda questions, yin yang, the alpha round, and their wake up question to finish. Check out this fantastic podcast. Do the little guy a favor. Subscribe and review. It'll help get him off my back.
If you want to take it to another level, the Alpha Ultimatum for men worldwide who know they are capable of way more. Go to adamlewiswalker.com, click Get Involved, and you have the application form right there.
Get to the podcast.
Right, good morning, guys. We have an elite one for you today. We have double Paralympian James Roberts on here. He's an ex-teammate of mine, real nice guy. He competed at the 2008 Beijing Paralympic Games in the rowing, and then between the 4 years between the 2012 Paralympics and Olympics in London, he made the transition to sitting volleyball, which is where our paths crossed. He went on to compete for Great Britain. He earned over 50 caps in sitting volleyball, which we'll talk about is the fastest version of volleyball on the planet. It's faster than standing volleyball, faster than beach volleyball. It is awesome. He's considered a universal player and key in defence. I mean, Great Britain did really well to actually make the games in 2012, and they finished in 8th place. He's a left leg amputee and is classified as a D athlete. We'll find out exactly what that means in a minute. But firstly, James, are you ready to awaken your alpha?
Yes, I am.
Good stuff. So I'm going to jump straight with that. What is a D athlete for everyone?
That classification is for anybody who has a impairment, be it amputee. So it's more a physical disability that will stop you playing normal volleyball. So that's the definition they give.
So I'm going to jump straight into the origin question. But you're originally from Belgium. How did you obviously make your way over to these shores, number one? And how did you qualify and, become a D athlete? Tell us the origin, basically. What happened?
Well, I was born in Belgium because my mother worked for NATO.
Okay.
So I lived out there for 18, 19 years. During that time, I started out as a swimmer, and we kind of discovered. I started out as an able-bodied club.
Yep.
Asked, would I ever consider doing disability sport? And this was me at a teenager. I thought, why would I want to do that when I can compete with able-bodied kids?
Yeah. What were you? So you were born with this disability, or how did that come about?
Yeah. Mine is the medical term for it is congenital femoral dysplasia. So the easiest way of explaining it is the lower half of my leg, so below the knee.
Yep.
So I've got the femur, but I don't have a tibia and fibula, and it's attached to the hip.
So, I mean, you said you was competing swim with able-bodied people. I mean, what did you want to be when you was growing up? Did you ever think, you'd be able to sort of spend the amount of time you did and actually have it almost as a full-time career, training for your sports and going to the Paralympics? What did you want to do when you was growing up?
When I was growing up, I wanted to be a footballer or play basketball. So it's always been a part of my genetics. I wanted to get to the elite level, but as I got older, I've kind of got to the realization, well, football and basketball, that's not realistic because I've got a disability. And then it's kind of springboard from that. I've gone into swimming, and it's kind of progressed from there. And then I managed to make it to the elite level. So I got to realize my lifelong goal as a kid, what I wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah.
Just a different pathway.
When you was growing up, apart from the obvious ones, did you come up against many barriers as someone who's got missing their lower part of their leg, or did it not really affect you in any way? Were people quite understanding when you was at school?
I had quite good support network at school. There's maybe things I couldn't do, but as my parents would say, you could see my head ticking over. I could see the other kids, they'd do it, say, playing on the monkey bars, and then you could see me ticking over, well, how can I do that so I can do it? And then within a few days, I'd be doing it myself. So it just took time, and then eventually I'd be with the other kids. So it just took a few days longer to just figure out, well, how can I do that, adapt it so I'm able to do it.
So, I mean, what standard did you get to in swimming? When did swimming kind of get pushed to the side, or?
About 2005, I got dropped from the national program when I was at university. So I thought, oh, I'm going to come back after Christmas, rock up and be a student for the next couple of years.
Okay.
But I got a phone call from Anthony Hughes, disability performance director for Sport Wales, and he said, why don't you try rowing? So I spoke to my family. They said, well, you could either be very, very good at it or absolutely useless. So I kind of took it on board, and then it kind of went from there, and then made the transition to rowing.
Okay. Well, we like to ask like our awakening type moment. When did you really start to click and you found your path and it felt like you could potentially get to the Paralympics, get to the highest level in your sport, when it became for you a realistic belief that you can get to the Paralympics not only once but twice?
Probably when I made the potential swim squad back in 2003 it would have been, and then the realization of saying, like, trying to visualize what this games would be like. It kind of, that was what the first one, and then the second one, when it was actually reality, was probably be the year before Beijing when I was in the rowing squad. It's, well, this is only a year away.
Yeah,
the real possibility of making the team.
Quality. I was going to say, how tough was it to get into that rowing squad the first time round and sort of hold your place in there? And do you see as a major difference between the Beijing Olympics, obviously they're an away games if you want, and the London 2012? Because, I mean, in the build-up to 2012 in London, it was insane. And obviously they're putting a lot more money into all sports. What was it like? Tell us about both games and the differences.
For me personally, I think it was a good thing I had the games away from home, because you didn't have that so much of the media exposure.
Yeah.
Your family isn't so much in your face that they can get in contact with you all the time, because it's going to cost loads of money to do that. Whereas my immediate family, my mum and dad, they're kind of understanding that they know I need my space when I'm competing. The rest of my family is not so much. So that it's kind of, as I've progressed through my career, I've kind of said, well, I've got to accommodate them so much. I've got to speak to them. So London, we were allowed to see our families a bit more. There kind of wasn't that much pressure on us to do that well. We didn't have that expectation of going for medals. Whereas in China, there was an outside chance I could get a medal. So there's kind of there's more pressure on the games, but we kind of put it in the media perspective. We'll make the final. That's the minimum requirement. Anything else is a bonus. But inside the camp, we knew a medal, and we had an outside chance of getting a medal.
When it comes to rowing, obviously Great Britain has got a very strong tradition, and any championships that we go rowing, we're getting medals. I mean, we get gold medals left, right, and centre, and it's kind of that expectations. Whereas obviously volleyball, we're not known for it at all. And with my involvement in the sitting volleyball team as well, we were it was just about trying to get to the Olympics. Bearing in mind it was on home turf, it still wasn't a gimme because they didn't want to obviously waste funding on just sending a bunch of guys out there to sort of embarrass themselves. So it was just all about trying to make the finals, and then it seemed like anything else was a bit of a bonus.
Yeah.
So where did you come in the 2008? Where did the team or yourself finish in the Paralympics in 2000?
Fifth in the Paralympics.
Fifth? Oh,
yeah.
So close. I say fourth is the worst spot, but that's very close as well.
That's the best we could have done on the day, and there's people were better on the day, and you just have to accept that. I wasn't so happy the next day when everybody in the men's flat, they've all got medals and I got nothing. So it's a bit. I look at it now, it's like, well, you've still managed to make a Paralympic final, so you can't. It's not having to sniff at.
So I mean, when you finished obviously 2008 and you come back, what then led you to go into sitting volleyball? I mean, was there like, right, I want to come back next time and get the medals in rowing? Because obviously 4 years is a long time, and especially in a sort of a class of sport where it's not like a lot of able-bodied sport. You can survive, make quite a good living out of it, and get all the rewards that can come with potentially getting an Olympic medal. What made you then change sports, or did you give up sport at all completely? Sorry, or what happened between the two Olympics?
It wasn't instantly I made the change to volleyball. It was I'd come back from China, and I had one more World Championships with rowing. But with that in mind, they were bringing in a classification change. So I knew coming out of China, it's like, well, I've got one more year. Let's put everything into it and try and get a medal. Well, subsequently that didn't happen, but I put through everything into it, and then after that year, it's kind of back to between swimming and rowing. It's like, well, I'm coming back to university, getting ready for my final year.
Yeah.
Realistically, just wanted to focus on my degree, get that out of the way. I think back in my mind, I got another phone call from the performance director. What's your thoughts about doing sitting volleyball? I was like, I wasn't as keen, because I was like, well, I need to knuckle down and do well in my degree, because it's for my final year and it's a lot of hard work. So I said, well, I'll give it a chance, but I'm not going to throw everything at it at first.
Okay. I mean, what do you think has driven you to, obviously, there's a lot of people with disabilities, but obviously not all of them are a single Paralympian, let alone a double. What do you think, I suppose, mentally drives you to put in all them extra hours and, like you say, like split your interest when you're trying to study for your degree to then go and compete at a high level sport, which something like the sitting volleyball especially, I know that they really wanted a full-time commitment to that. Literally, especially the last year or so, they wanted let you to be full-time like a professional. Obviously not pay you like a professional, but they wanted that kind of commitment. And as we were just talking about before the interview, it wasn't, if people listening, it wasn't like a fun playing sport type of environment. It was serious business, the sitting volleyball, and it was they were really putting a lot of pressure, and it was hard training. What made you keep going at it for most of your adult life, basically?
That's a hard question I'd like to answer.
Yeah. What drives you to do this, basically?
I think the first one was when a realization that Paralympics was realistic. It's like, well, I want to get that.
Yeah.
On the next stage, or I want to, well, get a final, get medal. And I think what drove me to kind of compete in London was the opportunity of competing at home in front of your friends and family. And it's like, well, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You probably won't get another chance of doing it. So that's what drove me. It would have been nice if it was somewhere in a more exotic country, but kind of what drove me to come back.
That was my thinking. A lot of people, I wasn't sure if they're just saying, oh yeah, I'm so happy with the home games. And I was thinking, man, if I was competing in the Olympics, I would have hoped it would have been somewhere like, Brazil or Beijing or somewhere like that. Like, it'd be nice to go and compete in a different country, I would have thought. But I suppose the home support was huge. And obviously, the Paralympics, it pretty much in England, especially how the public viewed it, it was pretty much on par with the Olympics, and it was the whole thing was just a quality time in London and England. It was very cool. The whole team, the Paralympic team, just sitting volleyball team, you was on the sort of the heroes parade where they had you had all the Olympians and Paralympians on the buses going through sort of London, and the crowds were out in just hundreds of thousands. Were you expecting anything like that, like the media interest and the public interest?
Well, I wasn't fortunate enough to do the one after China, so I was thinking, well, I'm going to jump at this because it might not come back around again. It's just mind blowing how many people, and then people hanging out of windows.
Yeah, I saw it. It was ridiculous. Yeah. So I suppose we're going to go to the flip side then. What was in your how it can be to do with sports? It's completely up to you. But what was one of the sort of the biggest struggles you've ever had in your life, your career, or maybe your biggest failures or setbacks? Is there anything that springs to mind?
A little bit of regret is not getting that elusive medal at the on the world stage. It's always everything going well in training, and then somewhat or another not being able to reproduce it on the day.
And then we go to the flip side there. We might have just covered it, but what was one of the, I suppose, like your biggest alpha moments when you thought, actually, I've done all right here? Like, obviously, getting to 2 Paralympics, that comes in your sort of your introduction, your bio. But what specific moment when you've just thought, right, this is awesome? Like, I've done well here.
I think it's on reflection now. What is it? 2 years post done 2 Paralympics. I've managed to get through university. So I look back on it. I've kind of had a kind of eventful life. And well, I'm still not even 30 yet.
I was gonna say, mate, it's not time for the autobiography yet, or if you're not even 30 yet, yeah, you're just getting going, man. Well, we're definitely gonna ask what the future holds for you, but this is our Yoda question. Who helped inspire you along the way? It could be a coach, a mentor along the way, a school teacher. It's completely up to you.
I think over the years, I think it's been several people. My mum's been very supportive of my sporting career. She said from the outset when I started out, if you want to be an elite athlete, I'll support you. That's the decision you want to do. If you throw everything at it, I'll be right behind you. So that's one person. And then the other person would be Anthony Hughes. He's kind of steered me in the right directions when I could have ended my career quite early on.
Yeah. So this is the performance director for Paralympic England. What did you say?
For Disability Sport Wales.
Disability Sport Wales. Well, we're going to move on then. This is our yin yang round. So we're just going to find out a little bit more about you. So just go with your gut. Okay, I'll start you off easy. Night or day?
Night.
Beijing or London?
Beijing.
Rowing or volleyball?
Rowing.
Schwarzenegger or Stallone?
Stallone.
A Paralympic medal or £1 million?
I'd probably say the medal.
Oh man, I like that. See, I didn't know which way you go on that. Now I was trying to make it so it was quite a tough choice for you. Cool. Okay, then we're going to move on to the complete blank round. Again, all you got to do is complete my sentence, fill in the blank, and we'll find out a bit more about you. Your best friend would describe you as?
Well, I'd say quite sporty.
I would hope that double Paralympian. Okay. I've never really done this one before. Why would someone not like you? Someone wouldn't like me because
I'd say I'm quite self-centered.
This is interesting. Well, I suppose to a level of obviously for sports, I know it was a team sport, especially the volleyball is a team sport, but to get to that level, you do have to put yourself to the training.
You got to think about yourself first. So I think it's probably hurt people along the way because you're not important.
Oh my God, ruthless! But hey, we're getting insight into a double Paralympian here. So the last time you were drunk was?
Well, I don't drink that often, so would have been tipsy. It'd been at a friend's wedding 4 years ago.
4 years ago. See, elite athlete, good stuff. So even after, mind you, I know I can remember that the Great Britain camp around the Paralympics. There was definitely no alcohol going on, but there wasn't any champagne or anything like that after the Paralympics.
There was after the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
You kind of let your hair down.
Your favorite movie of all time is?
I'd have to say probably like the Blade series.
Any particular one? The first one or just the whole shebang?
I'd probably say the first one.
Your definition of success would be?
Well, now I've looked on reflection, probably having a good career.
A good career to you would be?
One Paralympics is probably a success as it is.
There we go, mate. You're all good then. No worries. I definitely thought you was going to say Paralympic medal. Something you fear is?
Probably injury.
You're definitely an elite level athlete because that would have been my answer for a long time. Yeah, I hate injuries. What was your worst injury?
I think the worst one I tore a little bit of my rotator cuff when I was in the rowing squad.
How did your shoulders get on with playing sitting volleyball? What was your worst injury in sitting volleyball?
The worst one I had was probably a couple of months out from London. I had a forearm injury. I couldn't shake for months. So at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not gonna recover here. I'm not gonna make the game. I managed to get on top of it because I kept going back. It kept flaring up and then calming down. I go back training too early, flare it up again. So I said, well, I need to get this sorted.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing. If you've got any sort of injuries, especially in that environment, I remember when I was there, it was a lot of overuse injuries, and they were putting in the hours, and it was that was kind of, you'd have training days all the time, and it would be like hours and hours and hours on court. It was so your shoulders and wrists and things took an absolute battering, and it was relentless. Someone who maybe hasn't ever seen sitting volleyball, the best thing about sitting volleyball to you is
the speed of it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. It is really fast, isn't it? So, I mean, how would you explain sitting volleyball to someone who hasn't seen it or played it or experienced it in the slightest?
You're having to react probably, I don't know, at least 10 times quicker.
Yeah.
Because it's coming at you that much faster.
Yeah. And all those, obviously the hits and all the things, it's all the same skills that you're actually making contact with the ball. So like you say, it's just less time to react. It's a fun game to play in the right circumstances when it's not under a lot of pressure with quite an aggressive coach.
I'd probably have to say one of the rowing coaches. He said from me point blank, if you beat everybody that's put in front of you from the onset, that's it. That's trials over with. You've got the position. So he was point blank with me. If you put in the work and you beat everybody, we'll go with you. So that it was. I think there was a common trust.
Nice. That's what you need, because we talked about other situations where you can you're not sure what, no matter what you do, or certain situations where coaches might have either their favourites or ulterior motives, and they might have something in their minds. So no matter whether you do beat people who are in front of you or you do potentially earn your place, it might not be as obvious as that. We're going to move on then. This is the alpha round, and we're just going to look for any sort of tools, tips and resources that maybe you have and advice you can give. So we're going to start that off with, is there a particular book recommendation that either one of your favourite books of all time, or one you could recommend when you're really trying to excel and get to a high level in sports?
I'd have to say the Steve Redgrave book Inspired, because he talks about his early life in sport all the way through until he's made five Olympics.
Yeah. I was going to say, so again, anyone in Great Britain will know about, you cannot not know about Steve Redgrave, but anyone else listening, he's been to 5 different Olympic games and got a gold medal. So he's 5-time Olympian, 5 gold medals from 5 separate games. So he's in England, or Great Britain, he's known as, an Olympic legend. I think it's Sir Chris Hoy matched him. I think Sir Chris Hoy is just in this, he just passed him, I think. He at least got 5. Chris Hoy got 5. You might know. Does he pass him? Did he get 6, Chris Hoy?
I think he might have got 6.
I think he might have. So Olympic legend. And obviously that book is based on Rome, which was obviously your early career was Rome. So good recommendation. Is there a particular quote that you like to live your life by, or just it could be either something you say or something that's in your head when times are tough?
One of the quotes I had, I think, when I was in the sport environment, I think it's, I don't know if it's word for word, but you're not there to be a tourist.
Yeah, I've heard one of them, but about you're not there to be a spectator, but yeah, tourist. I like that. That might have happened when you was in Beijing. Who knows? Now this one, depending on where you are on your gadgets and stuff, I know we haven't really talked about what you're up to at the moment, because if you retired from that, you are the media officer for you're into your basketball now, aren't you?
Yeah.
You've always loved your basketball, but you're into your wheelchair basketball moment. And you are, what is your official title? Is it the media officer for which basketball team is that?
Real Raptors.
Where are they based?
It's a club based in North Wales.
Have you got any resources, or with all your media, you're the media officer, and it could be to do with that, or just for being productive in everyday life? Any resources that spring to mind?
Well, the resources I use, obviously social media, so Twitter, Facebook, a little bit of Instagram, and then obviously for highlighting the club from a video standpoint, I use a lot of YouTube.
And finally then, what was the one question that you thought I was going to ask, or you'd hoped I'd asked, or have I kind of covered it? Is there anything that springs to mind that you'd like to put across?
I'd say, for like some of those sports, give even if you're able-bodied, you might as well give it a try, because domestically you can compete in any disability sport.
Linked to that then, what sort of advice would you give to people? Because I mean, it sounds like you don't overthink it or go too deeply into it, but what advice would you give to people if they want to compete in sports or just in life when there are tough times? you've obviously managed to stick with it to 2 Paralympics, obviously, because it can't have been plain sailing. And I know in tough conditions, it might be a coach you don't like, might be a situation that's out of your control. And you've got to really be consistent and keep bringing it every day to make these teams. What advice would you give to people if they want to try and, get to an elite level in sports, in careers, in business? What advice would you give?
From a sporting standpoint, if it's a sport that you love, you shouldn't let anybody stand in your way. If you want to achieve and get to that high level, there's always going to be barriers in the way. It's just overcoming them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sort of joining the dots a little bit, and you said I'm not the first person to do this. You've competed in rowing at the Beijing Paralympics. You competed then in sitting volleyball at, obviously, London Paralympics. It's only 2 years now till the next Olympics, Rio. And basketball, wheelchair basketball was one of your first loves, and you're involved with basketball at the moment. Is there a potential? What does the future hold for you? And did you ever think about potentially going for a third Paralympics, attempting either in the same sport or a different sport?
I think after London, I kind of thought, oh yeah, well, we've not done very well here. I've not done very well here. Kind of gone a little backwards with my career. I felt quite fancy going to a third games, but kind of as the years progress, it's like, well, I look back at it. I've had a good career. The injuries are kind of starting to pick up.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy watching one.
That's a tricky thing as well. It's kind of all or nothing as well, isn't it? And it's 4 years. You can't sort of think, yeah, I might give it a go. You've either got to go for it, literally commit to the 4 years, and then you've got the potential of literally getting cut from the team or not making the team, or even making the team and then having an injury right near the game. So it is a big commitment. Who do you think I should interview next or very soon? And you can have a couple of recommendations. It could be someone you'd just like to listen to their interview. You might not be connected to them in any way. Or it could be someone you've been in contact with through either of the Olympics or Paralympics, and you think would be really good for the show. Is there anyone who springs to mind who's a bit of an alpha you think would be cool to have on the show?
I'd say it'd be interesting to. He doesn't like doing his at the time, a couple of years ago, he didn't like doing his media stuff. So I'd probably say Justin Phillips, another teammate. It'd be interesting to see what he'd have to say about his experience.
Mr. Furious. That's what I think. I'm sure he got better, but yeah, he's got. I loved it. He started sitting volleyball exactly the same time as me. He was. We went to the both sort of Paralympic potential day after I did my knee in, and yeah, he's quality. I always think he's got hands like dinner plates. They're absolutely massive. Absolutely, like 2 bunches of bananas on the end of his wrist just dangling around. But yeah, intensity, a little bit furious. Good guy. I like him a lot. So we'll see. Yeah, that I can't get the whole team. I'll tell you who I thought would have been interesting as well. But we were just talking about before the interview. If you listened in, Anton, because obviously he's off in South Africa, and we do like to get people around the world. And even when I was involved with the team, he was very entrepreneurial. He was always up to something. We had good chats about his little adventures in business and projects he was up to.
Always jetting off somewhere.
Yeah, he's always up to something interesting. So that's very cool. Who would you like to have interviewed on this show that someone you'd tune into to listen to, that you can either know them or you don't know them? They could be a famous person. It's up to you.
I'd say Colin Jackson.
He's an absolute legend. That's a good idea, actually, because obviously Colin Jackson, again, if you're around the world, if you're sort of anything to do with Wales or Great Britain, you would know him because he's a high hurdler. He was the world record holder for a long time for high hurdles, and absolute legend from Wales. Yeah, I like him a lot, and now he's a BBC commentator. So that would be a brilliant one. That's a good show, actually. Okay, well, what's the best way if anyone wants to find out more about what you're up to? What's the best way to get in contact with you and follow you?
The best way to follow me now would be either my Twitter account, or I've got a Facebook page now.
Cool. So is that just at James Roberts?
It's James O Roberts 11.
Okay.
And then my Facebook one is James Robert Athlete.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like it's not going to be 3 times Paralympian. So what does the future hold for you? What's coming up?
I'm just trying to get as high up level in basketball as I can domestically. So hopefully one day playing in what is now the Premiership.
Thanks so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to catch up.
No worries. Good to catch up.
Cheers.
Check out this fantastic podcast, do the little guy a favor. Subscribe and review. It'll help get him off my back.
The Alpha Ultimatum, my 10-week malperformance mentoring. Build your body, build your mind, live limitless. Get 2015 started right. We'll be working on your inner game as well as building the body to match. We start in January, so now is the time.
Go to adamlewiswalker.com, click get involved, and you have the application form right there. And guys, happily I can announce we are now on Instagram at Awaken Your Alpha. I look forward to seeing you, following you as well, and seeing photos of all the listeners of Awaken Your Alpha and what you guys get up to. I'd love to have you join my Instagram and follow me, and I look forward to seeing you on there.
The Awaken Your Alpha podcast. Live limitless.